Okay, danger zone, danger zone. If this video ends up becoming useless because there's a trade made between the time I'm talking on this microphone and the time I press public, then I'm gonna freak out. But let's go out there and talk about that article that was published on Expressen.se earlier yesterday. This is a Swedish news outlet, and what they did was they interviewed San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson. Now, at the time of me recording this audio, Carlsson is still a Shark. He is still a part of that team. He has not gotten traded. And even though we had ourselves all the rumors earlier saying that the Carolina Hurricanes and the Pittsburgh Penguins, these two teams are the two frontrunners in the Erik Karlsson sweepstakes, it was Carlsson himself who had himself a few comments indicating what other teams could be in this process. So, without further ado, let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and also the Seattle Kraken, as Carlsson labels them particularly as two teams in the mix. We're heading over onto Expressen.se and translating this article from Swedish into English to get our scoop and to analyze the situation. Now, the article is going to be linked in the description, but it is in Swedish, so you kind of need to do what I did and translate it if you want to read it. But here is the headline from Swedish to English. Erik Karlsson wins the Golden Puck Award in 2023, and now he's addressing the rumors. The article opens up by talking about how he had won the Golden Puck Award, the prize awarded to Sweden's best ice hockey player. He now has 3 Golden Pucks, which is the most of anyone. Above all, I have proved to myself, maybe a little to everyone else too, that I still have it in me, says the 33-year-old who hopes to change NHL clubs this summer. Yeah, it says that right there, that he wants out. He hopes to change NHL clubs. Okay, cool. I know what I and my family want. Now we just hope we get the chance, he says. The article then goes into a pretty deep dive on Erik Karlsson's personal life, talks about his kids, talks about his Swedish roots and being the recipient of the gold puck, and how he's got kids and how he plans to stay in Ottawa after his career is done, what he thought about changing cultures, what it's like being a Swede in Ottawa. It's a pretty interesting read if you're interested in the Erik Karlsson story, not just of the hockey player, but of the guy. But if you go to the very end of the article, or not the end, more like the middle part, oh man, this is a really long piece. If you go to the middle part of the article, there is a conversation happening about the future of Carlsson. The biggest part about Erik Karlsson is the money he earns. His $11.5 million per season is considered too heavy a salary item, and therefore the current teams that have been rumored in North America, among others, are Pittsburgh, Carolina, Seattle, and Toronto. They all want San Jose to swallow a part of the salary during the 4 years remaining of Carlsson's contract. It seems the Sharks are willing to do that, but the question is to what degree. At the beginning of July, Erik was in contact with Mike Grier, the GM of the Sharks. We heard 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have a good relationship, and I like him as a person and GM. This is a new experience for both of us, but we have open and honest dialogue throughout, and it's important for everyone to move forward in the future. Obviously, the Sharks are in a rebuild right now. Would you be okay with staying with the organization for the 4 years remaining on your deal, given where you are in your career? The interviewer asks. Carlsson says, no, I'm not okay with staying. I like San Jose, and I like it there, but I've never been able to win before. I want that chance now that I'm at the end of my career. I've been open about that with Grier from the first day he started. He hasn't had any problems with it. We understand each other and will do so regardless of what happens in the future. Do you want to go to a specific place, they ask him? Team, division, or conference? No, I'm open with this process. I don't have a chosen destination, I just want the best chance to get the best team. Where it is, well, we'll see. I think San Jose appreciated that I was honest with them because this is a complicated thing to go through. I make what I make and the salary cap has barely gone up in 3 years, so the money is starting to run out a little here and there. This is where you talk about the teams, and Pittsburgh is the first one to be reported on the line. Yes, I have talked to some teams, and Pittsburgh is one of them, Carlsson said. I've played against them for many years and have a good grasp of that group and the players that are there. Carlsson then says that he had spoken to Spezza, particularly because they've been friends since before. Is Carolina one of the teams you talked to as well? Carlsson says, yeah. Toronto? Seattle? I've spoken with Seattle, yes, also some with Toronto. There have been a few more teams as well. Quite a few, anyway. Yeah, there's interest. Then it's about getting everything together. That's the hard part. We'll see if it works out. Got Pittsburgh at the top of your priority list, they ask. And he says, well, I don't have a priority list. I'm very open because I think that'll lead to the best option. And so I know we did like a bunch of reading. That was pretty much like a good chunk of the article, but believe me, this might not have even been a quarter of the entire piece. There's so much content written about here with Carlsson and his career, his life, and his personal situation. But I wanted to talk about Seattle, and I also wanted to talk about Toronto, because these two teams entering the Carlsson mix make things very interesting. Because, of course, we'd already heard that the frontrunners were Carolina and Pittsburgh, these two teams that are in the mix, and apparently Carlsson doesn't like Carolina, apparently he doesn't like Brent Burns. That was the wording that was used by Mark Madden, or excuse me, not he doesn't like Brent Burns, it's that he hates Brent Burns, apparently. That was the wording we heard from Mark Madden. But hearing that there are other teams all of a sudden that are in the forefront here too, like, of course, Toronto and Seattle, it makes things very intriguing because now there might be some sort of a bidding war that could ensue in this situation. We knew that Pittsburgh had the upper hand because apparently Carlsson preferred Pittsburgh. Okay, cool. But what if he actually wants to go to Toronto? What if he says, yeah, Seattle is on the up and up, they're just getting better every year. If Vegas went out there and won the Stanley Cup within a few years of them being a team, maybe Seattle could do the same thing because they're improving as well. Maybe Seattle is the move here. Let's disregard salary for a minute because we could just assume that there's going to be retained salary, there's going to be a bunch of other monetary assets going back the other way to San Jose just to balance out the money. Let's just assume a trade is possible. Let's do that. If you think about the idea of Carlsson running a power play with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Johnny T, and whomever else, that becomes maybe the best power play in the league. I mean, no shade to Morgan Rielly, but he's no Erik Karlsson. If you want to go out there and try to split the load, maybe that becomes a little problematic, as we had seen with the Brent Burns-Carlsson situation in San Jose a few years ago. Maybe, just a hypothesis. If you're going over to Seattle instead, I feel like out of all the guys on Seattle, Erik Karlsson is already head and shoulders above the offensive output of defensemen on that team. I know you got some pretty good names. Vince Dunn just re-signed. He got a pretty big money deal. Good for him. But when it comes to what the Kraken have at their disposal, I feel like there's a lot more to learn from getting a guy like Erik Karlsson. I mean, Dunn was so good last season. He got like 60-something points, I'm pretty sure. And he's young enough that I feel like if you wanted to say, all right, well, Dunn can play on the left, Carlsson can play on the right, Dunn is only 26 years old, there's a lot that he can learn from playing with a player like Erik Karlsson. I feel like this could be a really good learning opportunity heading into the next few years. Morgan Rielly in Toronto is 28, or 29, I'm pretty sure, so I feel like there is a lot less room to give Rielly some sort of a benefit or a boost or a learning experience here, like there is with Dunn. But that's just kind of my opinion. Of course, they're only separated by 2 or 3 years, something like that, so it might not be the biggest thing in the world, but when it comes to what potential lies with each team, I feel like Seattle has a bit more untapped potential that you could bring out if Erik Karlsson is able to go over there. Toronto is already a front-loaded, stacked, top-heavy team, so I feel like that would be adding just a lot more, but for Toronto and their situation, they're sort of on the opposite side of the emotional spectrum that makes it a little bit more difficult, I feel, to definitively say they could be the option because Toronto is kind of on their last legs. If they lose out in another first-round series, everything is going to be done. You're going to see all these star players leave. It's going to be bad. Seattle, on the other hand, it's all good in Washington. Everybody's feeling good about the team. Everybody's seeing how they're improving. And so if I had to choose Erik Karlsson to go to one of these two teams, I feel like Seattle might be the better story here. But that's just me. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Erik Karlsson situation opening up to more teams? Karlsson himself confirming that he's talked to the Maple Leafs, he's talked to the Kraken, they've had conversations about bringing him on board. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Where do you think Karlsson should go out of these teams, plus Carolina and Pittsburgh, I guess? Which team do you think provides the best story? Which team do you think will give Karlsson the best opportunity to extend his legacy? Which team do you think would give him the most points? Article, as always, is going to be linked in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.